do do. Starting on my live streams, hanging do 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 do. Trying to wait for people to come aboard for me. It doesn't rhyme, and I don't care. Starting on my live streams, hanging do 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 do. Gotta shut my face up. Wait for people to. All right. Hey there, everybody. This is Shaney Entertaining. Yeah, I see we got a couple of people waiting. Now there's back to one person waiting. So we'll see if maybe I'll wait a few more ticks. Wait a tick, for people to show up to join me on this magnificent occasion. Yeah, today, guys. So this is this thing. This one's called No Respect. All right, no respect at all. And I'm starting to see that no, this isn't starting to. This has been going on for quite some time, and it's irked me for some time. And I think I have made videos similar to this topic before, but it doesn't seem to be stopping, and it's only getting worse. And I think at some point, we as fans of these beloved franchises who have been much maligned need to stand up and do something and stop taking it. And that's all of us, because and I'm not talking boycotts. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. You'll know what I mean. Like I said, I'm gonna wait a little bit because I usually have to repeat myself, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just gonna drink a cup of my Cheetah Joe. Cheetah Joe. That actually should be like a drink, like an energy drink. Cheetah Joe. Get your drink on. I patent that, guys, so no one can use Cheetah Joe. I don't know if you guys noticed from before, but I changed my background there. You can see I got some Masters. Stop moving, stupid camera. You'll see I have Masters of the Universe stuff now up there, because it's not symbolic of anything. I'm not saying just because Endgame was over and I had to get rid of my superheroes. It just, I needed a change. So there's no symbolism in that. Although maybe there should be. It would be kind of cool if there was symbolism in it. But there just isn't. I wasn't thinking that deeply when I came up with it. I changed actually all my shelves a little bit. If you see, I don't know if you noticed a little bit of change. Not major changes. I don't know, when I got Bigfoot up there. I don't know if you guys see Bigfoot right there. All right, that's a little bit of me wasting some time before I get to so people can come and join. But yeah. So I'm going to start off, since it's been time. I'm going to start anyway. So Nana Boo Boo. Yeah, so this is the thing about this. The other day when last night I did my review of the Avengers and Endgame movie. Today I might be talking about that. There's going to be probably stuff in this conversation that will have reference to that. Amongst other things, I'm going to talk Star Wars. I'm going to talk Lucasfilm. I'm going to talk CBS. I'm going to talk Star Trek. I'm going to talk Ghostbusters. I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff today that just irks me. I find it irksome, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of these things. Because here we are as fans, and here's what I've noticed right off the bat. You see, people tend to be fans of logos, and here's the funny part: is that people don't realize this. We are all fans of a logo. Stand-up comedians have said we're just fans of shirts, especially with sports. We're just a fan of a shirt, because you're not a fan of a player. Because the minute, like you say you're a fan of, like, say this player, and you cheer for him, and you wear his jersey, and you're like, yeah, he's awesome, he's great. The minute that guy goes and turns on another shirt, puts on another shirt, we hate him. Boo, screw that guy now. I loved him when he was wearing my shirt, but now that he's wearing another shirt, a different color with a different logo, boo, he sucks now. I can't stand that guy. And that's kind of what we are, all fans of logos, to an extent. I mean, if we break it down, obviously there's more to it. There's more passion involved in all this stuff. But truthfully, when you break it all down, we're fans of logos. And here's the thing, that these companies know that our passion tends to be for logos and symbols. For instance, hockey sports, we've all been fans of the same jersey that we've worn for years. And you notice how most of the times when they do change a jersey in sports, they'll change the colors They'll change the stripes. They'll change the arrangement. Like a Yankees jersey will change here and there, little minor details that are changed, but they'll never actually change the logo. You never really see the Yankees logo be anything other than the N and the Y. The Toronto Maple Leafs, which is what I am, most of the times if they change the logo, it'll be to an older logo, which still has sentimental value. Because they changed the logo, I think, around the 70s, and then they went back to an old logo. So they're not really changing the logo to a point where we don't recognize the logo anymore. Most franchises that are story franchises aren't changing the logo. They'll change the jersey, and they go through multiple jersey changes over the course of their existence because it sells, and people need to get the new model. But they don't change the logo because the logo is what we fall for. It's what we're recognized, and it's what we love. Star Wars can change whatever Star Wars wants, but the wording in Star Wars never changes. It doesn't matter if it's Rogue One. It doesn't matter whether it's The Last Jedi. It doesn't matter. The Star Wars logo is the same because these companies, they realize how hard it is to brand a new logo. And that's what we're doing. We're branding logos, and so that we fall for is logos. The new Ghostbusters is a prime example of this, where you see Ghostbusters with this 2016 changed an entire cast, changed all the stuff around it, changed the location, changed the people, changed the story, changed whatever the hell they want. All they kept was what? The logo. The only thing they decided to keep was the logo because they think that people were passionate about the logo, and so they decided that that's what they're keeping is the logo. And the same thing with Thundercats and Thundercats Roar and She-Ra. If you notice, She-Ra, they'll change the whole cartoon. If you guys know about the She-Ra situation, they change the entire cartoon. They make this person fat. Maybe now some characters are gay. They change whatever the hell they want to change. But the She-Ra wording and the She-Ra words are still, in essence, are the same. Thundercats Roar. If you saw the trailer for Thundercats Roar, my condolences. If you're a fan of Thundercats, you know exactly what I'm talking about. How horrible it is. All you need to know is that they changed every single thing about the look of that show and that cartoon, and they just kept again. The only thing that they actually did, and the funny part is everyone complained about how crappy the animation was for those cartoons. But the one thing that they actually managed to keep was the only thing they managed to keep was the logo and actually do an awesome design and drawing. Well, they don't really have to draw; they probably just cut and paste it. But that's the only thing that seemed natural and normal that we can recognize because, of course, they just want our support for the logo, and that's a huge part in this, guys, because Star Trek is another one where Star Trek changes the uniforms. They change the uniforms. They change the look of the ships. They change the people. They change the atmosphere. They change the direction. They change what it's about. But what do they keep? They keep the little logo the same. The Star Trek wording is still the same. Why? That's what we recognize when we see it when we see it. We that's what we recognize, and we draw into that. And that's what they know. And it's a huge deal because that's how they exploit us. That's how they exploit us. That's how they get us on board with these things, is by taking something that we recognize, putting it up for display so that they attract us and get our initial money. Then they do whatever the hell we want. Hey, reimagining Star Wars. How's it going, buddy? Yeah, I know. Here I am again. Just can't shut me up. Not for too long. Whenever I have time, I do these live streams because I just do them. Why not? I have things to say, and so I say them. That's just who I am. But here's the thing: there's more to it that fans actually like than just a logo. But that's what we have to sort of demonstrate, because the reason why they're so successful in these franchises and why they can get away with what they do does have to do with the logo and the branding. And because of that, we still subconsciously are drawn to this stuff. Like Transformers, they give us the words that say Transformers. They'll throw out the sound effect and give Optimus Prime's voice. And when we get these things, the nostalgia feeling, but it's more than just nostalgia. Nostalgia has part to do with it, but there's also just like hold on, is it Frozen? Hang on, I don't know if it's frozen. There's more than just nostalgia because there is a loyalty to brands that we have. I don't even understand it, to be honest, because I know some people are just ridiculous when it comes to that. Like some guys that just won't drink Pepsi because they're just so loyal to Coke. I'm like, try Pepsi. It's not that bad. And they'll be like, no, it's not Coke. And they won't even drink Coke, any Pepsi products. That's how stubborn they are. They will have only Coke products, only the other soft drinks that are associated with Coke, like Sprite. They won't drink 7-Up. They only drink Sprite. It's just branding is a weird thing for people. They're just so loyal to brands. And that goes far beyond nostalgia, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying nostalgia isn't part of it. Nostalgia is obviously a big part of it. Guy Harrison, how's it going, buddy? Lazy writing by writers who are more interested in fame and money than their art. Okay. I don't think it's that. I think that the problem lies not with the artists themselves, although I will tell you there are a problem with the artists. But that's not the problem with the artists. That is the problem with the studios. That is the problem that we have with the studios. The studios are the ones that want to pump out money. They want to make as much money as they can without spending as much. They only want to spend on sure things, and they feel that logos and nostalgia are sure things for them. And that's all they like in the 80s. I keep going back to the 80s because the 80s were a time when you were allowed to make mistakes, where people could actually reimagining Star Wars says we chase the feeling, then we're crazy on, and then we get crapped on. Yes, but that's again, that's what I'm saying. But whose fault is that? It's kind of all of our fault, and I'll tell you why. Because, well, this is this whole thing. We as fans at some point have to stand up for this. I don't know if you guys are into sports. I love sports, and I'm a huge Leafs fan. And the Toronto Maple Leafs is a hockey, if you don't know, is a hockey team of my hometown, and we haven't won a Stanley Cup or a championship. We're a storied franchise of 100 years old. We're one of the richest franchises, sports professional franchises in the world, and yet and probably the richest team in the NHL, and yet our team hasn't won a Stanley Cup since 1965, okay? Our fan base has been shit on and crapped upon by an organization who doesn't give a shit about us, only know that we're just going to keep spending money regardless of whether they throw out crappy player after crappy player, and we just sit there like lemmings, just tossing them money, all buying the merchandise, buying the logo, going to see this every year with new hope. Oh, they got this player this year. Well, they're definitely winning the cup this year, and only to be let down. It wasn't until us fans finally said enough is enough and stopped paying for that shit. Actually, it's hard because in Toronto, the corporations buy most of the seats, so it's always going to be sold out. But the problem is that we weren't actually going to the games, and it's no longer just about seats. It's all about television revenue. It's about tickets revenue in the stands and the concessions, buying jerseys and things like that. And that's the stuff that kind of stopped to the point where it alarmed them enough that guess what happened? They backed the truck up, said, and there was an actual war at one time, by the way, where the fans just started throwing jerseys and booing all the time. And then the players were like a bunch of sulking babies. And then what they did was we called it salute gate, because they used to salute the fans before they left. And the players decided not to salute us because it was like their holdout on us booing them. And so what we ended up doing was we booed them even more. And then at some point, it just became a war between the fans and the players, which is what you're seeing in a lot of these franchises, whether it be Lucasfilm and stuff. And then eventually, though, the money just dried up. Like it wasn't as bad, like as big as they wanted it to be. And so what ended up happening was they backed the truck up finally, and the organization just cleaned house and just got rid of all the players and then rebuilt it from scratch. And now the team is doing better. Reimagining Star Wars says, I am a Crimson Tide fan, so I don't feel you with this one. Well, it's hard to feel any sympathy for hockey fans if you're not a hockey fan. But the point is, if you're a fan of a storied franchise that is doing nothing but raising ticket prices every single year, and then never producing a team with any value or any, for like decades, like 1965, we haven't even had like an MVP player on our team. And I don't even know ever. Can't even remember the last time we had a Hart winner or a trophy winner on our team, and we're the richest franchise. How the hell does that even happen? So, but you see that sort of thing going on now. The disrespect that they had for the fans. It took the fans having to say enough is enough, and there is a point where, and they thought for sure, man. This is running gag that we as fans were just going to continuously pay like a bunch of suckers every year for this. And they were wrong on that. And I think that there's the same sort of mentality with Disney right now, who I think they treat their fans with such disrespect. And not just Disney, but Disney's part of it. I think I'm talking about the old ways, like the Disneys, the Universal Studios, the Sonys, these studios that are just willing to hey, we could do the bare minimum, put out whatever we have to, and not even monitor really what the people they're hiring are doing. Like Lucasfilm, I think they're legitimately out to put forth their little narrative because of we know who. we know who's responsible for that, Kathleen Kennedy. And we also know who's, when it comes to other characters and other like Sony, and we know who's responsible for that as well. I forgot her name, but she's another one, a feminist who's behind that. And they allow these guys because, hey, I don't really care. As long as you bring in the money, I don't give a crap what you do. And they're not overseeing this. They're just letting these people run amok. And then they disrespect us. And they're taking they're taking for granted the fact that we have passion for these franchises. And the thing is, I'm seeing this sort of rekindling here. And this is sort of what's sort of worrying me a little bit, because we started something with Star Wars that I think is finally getting acknowledged. The fact that we said enough is enough, and we said we're not going to go see Solo, and it's not just about the ranting and raving on YouTube. It's that doesn't do it. That doesn't cut it. It's got to be, we got to put the wallets away and not pay. And I'm not even talking about a boycott. See, that's the thing. Boycotts, they can wait out a boycott. They'll be like, oh, these people are just hurting fans. They'll always come back. There has to be a level of actual disinterest, because if we just say, well, we're not boycotting this because because we don't like what we see, but then they'll be like, we'll just wait them out. And like they did with Captain Marvel, they just buy the tickets anyway and say, haha, you guys don't, you guys, your boycott failed, nana boo boo. And then, everyone else is like, oh, but it didn't fail, I don't think. But but they bought their own tickets, so we don't know. Like, we think they bought their own tickets. I believe they did, but I think if they did, it was to, I think, squash the boycott mentality that whatever we don't like, they don't want us to. They don't want us to they don't want to encourage this behavior. Reimagining Star Wars says, but it is. They spend $300 million on making a film, is not a diversion of life views. See, I am Crimson. See, they're spending this money on sure things, on sure bets, and they don't spend money anymore on things that aren't sure bets. I mean, what they consider sure bets. I mean, there's nothing that is a sure bet, but there are things that you could say have enough of a fan base, and you could test these things through, with cartoons and shows and toys and stuff. But they're closer to sure bets than anything else, and so they're not willing to spend any money on that. Like Captain Marvel, they had to make it into. They were so. This is the hypocrisy with Disney. It took them forever to make a female superhero movie. It took them more than 10 years, and they've been asking, and Scarlett Johansson's been asking. They had other female characters that they ignored, and then they decided to, because they saw what Wonder Woman did and the success that Wonder Woman had, and that's the only reason they brought it out. And I don't care what anybody says. They waited to see someone else try it before they actually tried it for themselves. But now they're grandstanding, like they're and her and Brie Larson are grandstanding like they actually. Well, okay, I'm glad you mentioned Mortal Engines, dude, because I love that movie. I love that movie, and it's not a sure bet. and that's one of those movies that I actually say, deserved more. It deserved better, and we need to see more of that. And I 100% agree with you that we need more of those. And that's on us. The reason that movie doesn't succeed, and I have this whole thing on why that movie didn't succeed, because it was succeed the way that it should have. And Mortal Engines to me is just, it gave me a cinematic experience that I haven't seen in forever, and I love that movie. I should have done a review on it actually, but and the reason why I didn't do a review on it is, again, well, it was during a time when I wasn't sure about what I was going to do with YouTube. But aside from that, again, Aleta is another example where they take and they spend money, but is it a sure bet? No, it's not. That becomes the marketing issue. The marketing of the movie then has to become successful, and they've lost. It's a lost art. 100%. The marketing of marketing movies is become a completely lost art. They don't know how to do it anymore. They don't know how to market characters anymore. And that's a whole other video all on its own, because that's sort of what I'm trying to get at with my documentary series that I'm trying to come out with, is that one of the reasons that these movies like Mortal Engines don't do well has to do with the fact that they don't have a central figure character with any that you can latch onto, that you can like. That biggest problem with that movie was not unlikable characters, but unmarketable characters. And none of the characters were memorable. I mean, they looked cool, but they weren't the personalities weren't memorable. And that's the problem. There were some really cool villains and other cool things. And cinematically, there was a lot of amazing things about that movie. But when you talk about the two main characters in that movie, neither one were marketable as far as what you could latch onto. Their personalities didn't have very much going for them. And so that's why I say that. But we see, that's why they don't. That's what I mean. Like, the money that it takes to actually market these things, that's what they don't want to spend on. That's what they don't care about. All they know how to do now is create controversy. So how you market Captain Marvel is to create the controversy. We have to create the narrative that if you don't watch it, you're sexist, by creating the narrative that she's a ceiling breaker. She's not a ceiling breaker. She's nothing. She's a windbreaker at best, but she's not a ceiling breaker. And the whole thing of them saying about how Captain Marvel has done such wonderful things for females it's a lie. It's they've done nothing really, because if they actually cared about that narrative, they would have done it a long time ago. They wouldn't have waited 10 years and wait for Wonder Woman to come out and do it first. No, they play it safe, and that's all Disney and these big corporations know how to do, is play things safe. But when things hit the fan, they double down. And this is where it really gets sort of out of hand, is because now, instead of owning their mistake like a professional franchise usually does in sports, you have a bad season, your team acts poorly, Valerian, I don't know, I didn't like Valerian. we may have a difference of opinion on Valerian, but I know what you mean. Valerian, well, not even just Valerian. What was the other one that they came out with? The Wachowski brother, what do you call them? The guys that did Matrix. Didn't they have what was that other movie that they came out with? See, these movies have potential, and you're always going to have a bad movie. Sorry, I'm going back to that conversation because I always cut myself off. But I have a problem with cutting myself off. I'm always mansplaining to myself. Damn it! I got to stop mansplaining to myself. But these movies have potential to be good movies. I mean, but the problem is they don't market them properly. They don't like I liked what was that one with the Mars? What the heck was that movie with? I forgot what the name of that movie. This is a movie that came out years ago. Mars. It was another Disney movie. They didn't put enough marketing behind that movie. They just sort of abandoned it. They could make, but they don't. They won't spend They won't spend the marketing necessary to boost to create the franchises around these movies, because they're just unknown entities and they don't know. There's an actual art to creating an actual logo. Sorry, not an actual logo, but an actual, franchise, or an actual, not franchise, but not just logo, but to build it up. There's a certain things that we actually have to do to get to that level. You can't just say, oh, here's a movie, it's going to be entertaining and fun. you have to have things like Matrix came out and was hugely successful out of the blue. Guardians of the Galaxy came out and was extremely successful out of the blue. So it can be done. Yeah, John Carter. Thank you, my friend. The reason why I thought it was Mars was because I think the book it was based on was called something from Mars. I think John Carter of Mars was the book it was based on. But John Carter, they changed the name. I don't know why they did change the name, but I think John Carter of Mars is actually much better. And I thought that movie was all right. I thought it deserved better than what it got. And it was a Disney movie, and Disney didn't advertise for it for some reason. I don't know why. But then you see something like Twilight, and they go buck nuts, and these books are highly successful. It's a franchise that they know is successful as far as the books are concerned, and so everywhere you went, it was Twilight this, Twilight that, Twilight this, and that became hugely successful because it was based on something that they can build on, and that's the whole thing. That's why right now, the people who are making it, they really don't care. It's just a bunch of apathetic businessmen on the top just saying, I don't care. And then you have these this is why I don't think it's the artist's fault, because a lot of these artists want to make their own shit. Okay, stuff. Sorry, I shouldn't be swearing. It's just beneath me. I don't know. I swear sometimes. But you got these creators. Reimagining Star Wars says 100 to 150 million in the range for a typical sci-fi flick. Yeah, but see. Look at Back to the Future. I'm gonna use Back to the Future as a huge example here, because Back to the Future was the most successful movie of its year. It was a movie that came out of nowhere. It wasn't a movie that anyone really had any expectations on at all. But it had two directors that understood how to build a brand. Okay, and that's the key thing here, is how to build the brand. And the movie, while it was a great movie. Listen. When they first made Back to the Future, they got Alvin Silvestri, right? Silvestri to make the music. Music was extremely important. They had Huey Lewis and the News made music for it. They made that's extremely important. They had an actor that they already filmed half the movie, or most of the movie. I think I don't know if it was half, a little over. I think half the movie or under half the movie, and then they decided this character has no charisma. He's not fitting Marty McFly. We have to they knew the actor they wanted, which was Michael J. Fox, and he became available. And so they did reshoots, and which the studio didn't like. The studio was not happy about. Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg actually had to pitch and really fight hard to get them to do the reshoots for that, because they thought it was extremely important that they get the right actor to play Marty McFly. And they had the same directors, the same music, the same everything, but they felt that they needed that this movie wasn't going to get the effect they needed, because they needed a more marketable hero to lead this franchise. And I don't even think they believed it was a franchise yet. So that's what they did. They fought hard, and guess what? They got Michael J. Fox, and that was not a mistake, because this movie became a killer movie. They got there was a lot of reasons as to why the wordings Back to the Future had its own font. It was recognizable. It wasn't a blend-in of something else. So all these things conjoined in a perfect storm to create this movie. But these directors, they understood what it took, to the point where they had to fight for a specific actor. They know the pieces. Steven Spielberg's a genius at this. They knew exactly the right moves to make to get this to be a successful movie. And he's done it before with E.T. He's done it with Indiana Jones. He's done it like him in Lucasfilm. He's done it with various franchises, and so he knows how to do it. And that's what I'm thinking is the lost art. There's a lost art to building a franchise. Marvel has it. Marvel knows it. They knew it going in, and I think they stumbled upon it accidentally. I don't think they did it on purpose. I think Iron Man came out when it came out, and I think it was just, that was, you talk about a perfect storm, that they just sort of like, it came from, but mind you, it also had its own slight fan base, which helps. Marvel's movies have a slight fan base, but the fact that they had Jon Favreau, a good director, I think he directed the first one, right? You got, again, a great actor, and that's the thing, because Marvel, you could have put any other actor in that, and it might not have done well. But the minute what's his name becomes Iron Man, he elevated that character beyond what it was, and that's where you have this whole, you have to have the actor with the character, and everything with the right director, and it's like a soup. It's a recipe for success, and that's what Iron Man did. And then from that, they realized we got to get a specific type of actor. We need to have the specific character. We have to advertise it this way, and then it will be a success. And Marvel then realized a formula for success based on that. Well, yeah, Spielberg is definitely one of the greats when it comes to that. And that's I mean, how many franchises has that guy created? Him and Lucasfilm, him and George Lucas created on their own. Indiana Jones. I mean, they had their hand in a lot of things. Even though he didn't direct Back to the Future, he definitely had a huge hand in making Back to the Future. He was behind the scenes working with Zemeckis in producing it and stuff. Poltergeist, E.T. Dude, the dude was just fantastic when it came. And E.T. think about how genius E.T. was. He had one movie to create a franchise. One movie. There was no E.T. cartoon there was a failure of a video game. I think there might have been a cartoon. I don't remember if there was. If there was a cartoon, can you? If somebody said, I don't think there was. If it was, it wasn't very popular. There weren't multiple books written. E.T. and the stories and the tales of E.T. That's how popular E.T. And all he ever did was, I think, re-release it a couple of years in a row because they didn't have VHS in those days, so they just re-released it for the kids a couple of years in a row. But they didn't actually continue with that story, and yet it's still a franchise. That's how genius Steven Spielberg is at creating these things. Jurassic Park, another one, a great example. Again, he's a genius at that. And then when you look at what he can do and what he did, and you take those movies and what they have in common, what do they have in common? Well, let's take a look. They have, usually they have a fantastic score, which is extremely important in these movies. You get John Williams, who became just a master with him, but sometimes, Silvestri and Tim Burton to a lesser degree. These guys are phenomenal at helping, because it's memorable music for memorable movie. The font, the logo is extremely important. Look at the logo for Ghostbusters alone. E.T.'s logo, it's just E with a T, but it's memorable. It's like the Yankees. It's just an N and a Y. It's memorable. These things are memorable, and you remember them. The main actors, while the main actor in, I think, Jurassic Park, what's his name? Grant is kind of a weak actor. But then you had Jeff Goldblum, who found a way to make it a good movie, and he was the most entertaining part of that movie. And he comes back from the 80s. It's funny how all these 80s actors still keep that feeling, and you build a franchise around them. You have Jeff Goldblum with Jurassic Park. You have Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man. You build around with these 80s actors. Tom Cruise in most of the things he can do with Mission Impossible. You've all these 80s actors that could somehow bring to life that 80s feeling even in modern day, which is still fantastic for me to think about. But yeah, so that's how you build these franchises up. You build them up through these little minor details that you think aren't important but are important. They're all for it's all for brand recognition. So you look at a movie like Mortal Engines, which I'm glad you brought that up, because I loved that movie. And I kept thinking, why is this movie, which to me, when I saw the cities driving, for people who haven't watched this movie, go watch this damn movie. It's fantastic. And I don't even want to spoil it for you, because when you see, because even me describing it to you won't describe how just the spectacle of having a city on wheels just driving through, and how well it was done, and just the I don't know if it's based on anything, because I don't know enough about it, but it's just such a spectacle that I'm like, well, I haven't seen something that really was this awe-inspiring to me since I saw Jurassic Park. Because it was one of those like, wow, holy crap, I've never seen a city on wheels done this to this degree before. That wasn't in an anime, and this is really was a fantastic visual. And there was so much world building that was just fantastic in that movie, and it deserved better. It truly deserved better. And I think the biggest problem with the movie was they didn't have a proper logo. They didn't have an actor to build around, which they needed it was not necessarily a famous actor, but they definitely needed an actor with clout. to build around, because that was, I think, one of the major failings of that. And I don't know about the score or who did the score, but it definitely wasn't a memorable one as far as I can tell. There was just so many things that I just thought might not have that hurt that movie as far as, marketing it. But again, that's a lost art. Yeah, marketing is a lost art, and they don't care. They don't care. That's all they know how to do. These studios is take something that was already built by these geniuses or these people who, like Steven Spielberg, took the time to do it. They took their work and they just, they stole it, and they don't care. And their thing is, this is the problem. The artists that are working on them have passions. They got into this business because they want to create their own thing. So the guy who said, well, I want to make, like, I'm not even defend Rian Johnson, but I'm going to say he's a dingbat, and I'm never going to defend him. But guys like him will say, well, I have this vision in my head, but Hollywood won't give me a chance to show my vision in the way I want to. So they'll say, well, here's a movie that you can do. Prove yourself with a Star Wars film, because we don't want to spend the money to actually have a really powerful, popular director to do these movies. Because then we have to battle with them, because of what we want to see happen, and we have a formula, and they want to break the formula. So it's just better to get a young director or a newer director that'll toe the line. So we do that, and then this director says, "Well, I'm going to show I'm going to do my Rian Johnson. I'm going to show them what I'm about." And it's like, I'm going to do my movie the way I wanted to make it done. And then and then he has this ego because there's no oversight. Disney's not looking over his shoulder going, all he says is, make sure you hit these beats at this time. That's all we need. If you can do that, we don't care what you do. We don't care what the hell you do. As long as you hit this beat, have these comedic notes, have these actors here, that's all you got to do. That's what Mickey does. And then all of a sudden, so Rian Johnson goes out and says, as long as I do this, this, and this, you're not going to bother me. No. All he has is Mark Hamill on his ear. The little devil, Mark Hamill, standing on Rian Johnson's ear. I don't think the fans are gonna like this. Shut up. And then the other devil is just like, go Ryan, you're awesome. Or it's Kathleen Kennedy, no, you're doing the right thing. And then Mark Hamill's like, I'm telling you, this is not gonna go well. Shut up. He just argues with his shoulders. Mark Hamill is on one side, Kathleen Kennedy's on the other. And so you have this guy who has his own vision and his own thing that he's trying to do, and because he's thwarted by maybe the industry won't give him a chance to make his own movies that often, so he's taking this opportunity to say, well, I am going to do what I want, and I'm going to show them my talent and what I'm about, and that's all he cares about. And that's why you see a lot of these animators doing whatever they want and showing their story, because they're not being allowed to create new things. Reimagining Star Wars says, I think he did exactly what Kathleen wanted him to do. I think that he did. You're right. I think he did what Kathleen wanted to do, and Kathleen allowed him to do what he wanted to do because he was doing exactly what Kathleen wanted to do. You see, it was a mutual sort of thing they had going. Kathleen wanted him to do these, to do the political, feminist agenda stuff. And he had the, I don't think what they did to Luke Skywalker had anything to do with Kathleen Kennedy. I think Luke Skywalker was all Rian Johnson, and then what he did to the Force and what he did, I think that was all his nonsense. I think the Holdo stuff was Kathleen Kennedy. Reimagining Star Wars says, think about it. She fired Lord and Miller. Well, exactly. She fired them because they weren't respecting her godly wishes. She had her view, and they have clashed on their view. And exactly. But as long as, what I'm trying to say is, Rian Johnson did what he wanted, as long as it satisfied what Kathleen Kennedy wanted. So they both sort of had shared a vision at some point on this film. And then I think because of that, Rian Johnson was allowed to do whatever he wanted to. It was just like, you could do, as long as you do what I tell you to do, you get to do what you want, as long as it doesn't interfere with what I tell you to do. So that's why you have that movie. And he's like, well, I don't care. We'll do whatever I want because this is what I want to make. And so he's, I don't know why I love making him a troll sounding. I don't know. He just had that weird high-pitched voice. So again, I think that the people like Rian Johnson not just him, but there's a lot of different directors similar to him, and not just directors, animators, writers, um, that have their own ideas and have their own wishes, what they want to do, and they'd like to show their vision, but they're not allowed to because the production companies, they won't allow them to. They're not letting them. They're thwarting their creative expression because all they want is sure bets. They just want the sure nostalgia. Like they're preying on nostalgia. They're using pre-built logos that we built ourselves by supporting these things to do it. And so this whole thing is that you have Hollywood is just, like I said, it's the same thing with my sports franchise. As long as the money was coming in, they don't give a shit they just get who. They didn't care who was running the team, who was coaching the team, who was managing the team. They didn't care what they were doing as long as money came in. And when the money stopped, that's when they started to care, because that's when they came in and said, whoa, we gotta fix this. We have to know what we want too as fans, because a lot of us too are kind of confusing, right? We say we don't like remakes, but we love remakes. We constantly go to them. They make money. If they didn't make the money, we wouldn't go to them. So we sit here and go, oh, they're going to remake this again. Ugh. Oh, they're remaking this again. Ugh. But guess what? They make money. Oh, but they're remaking She-Ra. Ugh. And then they complain about She-Ra. But everyone watched it. Everyone sat there doing their reviews on it. Well, yeah, they want to force feed their ideology because these are fresh kids out of their college education courses, and they're just like, I learned a bunch of stuff, and now I want to tell everybody what I learned, and then they have to realize life doesn't work that way, and they have to build themselves up to a certain level, but they're not being managed properly. You see, listen. Ryan Johnson makes his own movie. And he does what he does. That's his business. He wants to make a hermit on a mountain, sucking milk out of a cow, a space cow. Then that's his business. Don't call it Star Wars. Don't call it Star Wars. Don't do it your own. Call it your own damn thing. Make your own damn movie of this depressing view. Make that your own movie, but don't call it Star Wars. And if you want to make a flick where you have female leads and female making the Force feminine and all that stuff, make your own damn movie. Make your own female-led movie. Don't make Ghostbusters. Don't make a Ghostbusters movie and then decreeing it's just going to be for us now. Don't do that. Make your own damn movie. Work on your own. Make your own logo. Make your own story. Make your own world building. Do that, because guess what? And they want to say, well, like Brie Larson will come out and say, well, I've proven that Brie Larson has proven single-handedly that I have built a ceiling that women can make millions of dollars or billions of dollars in a franchise, which is BS. Because you're talking about what do you call them? Twilight series. You're talking about what was the other one? The Mockingbird. What the heck was that? I never read those books, but that was another very successful series with a female lead. It's BS that these people that they say that, because these things were billion-dollar industries. Alien, how many aliens was Sigourney Weaver the lead role in, for heaven's sakes? These were franchises that were built with women at the helm, and it has nothing to do with women. It has to do with them building actually making and taking the time to advertise and to build properly a universe with background, with story building, with good writing and good, and that is appealing to the demographic that is trying to be. Guy Harrison says, amen. Reimagining Star Wars says, we won't go see it. Well, look at Star Wars right now. They're trying to appease us. They're saying, oh, well, let's make the Emperor say laugh. Suddenly we're like, oh, nostalgia. Our little nostalgia nipples go out and go, doing. We get all, oh, I recognize that voice. What does that mean? And then now all the theories are going to come out, and channels talking about what does it mean? And then, and so we fall for it again. We fall for it again because they're not doing again, there's no respect for the fans. If respect isn't just, it's like, again, going back to the sports analogy, it's like they used to do you know what they used to do to us a lot as Leaf fans? they'd take an old, nearly retired star player that was like 2 years away from retirement, but he's way past his prime, spend a ton of money to bring him in, you know, and then build the next year marketing surround around him. Because, you know, we use a big name. And so we'd all be like, oh, look, this guy's coming to town. Meanwhile, he's like nearly 40 years old. He's got this way past his prime. And he's going to take us to the Stanley Cup, a guy who was not the same player he was, you know, when we way before. And then, but because he had that name recognition, they got all the Leaf fans to go, woo-hoo-hoo, let's buy season tickets now. And they did that for years, that little game that they play. It's a little trick that they play. And that's the same thing. They're trudging back old names and old things that are past their prime and expiration date so that, you know, we can again spend money on the franchise. It's the same trick. It's just one sports and the other one is movies. It's the same thing. We won't go see a movie that passes their ideology without nostalgia. We won't go see any movies now. That's the thing too. You know, I was actually in the crowd. I mean, so when I went to go see Endgame, I was listening to teenagers that were behind me talking, and I was listening to their conversations because I like to eavesdrop. That's just what I do for fun. But I take notes of what people say, and it's kind of funny. And they were talking about how, dude, no, like this is exactly the conversation. Dude, no word of a lie. I swear this is like only the second Marvel movie I actually spend money in the theater to see. And they're like, yeah, I know, bro. I don't ever. This is like I usually stream these things, but this is the only one I've actually paid to. The other one was, I think, the other one they mentioned was the Avengers, Infinity Wars. These two are the only ones they actually spent money on, and that's also a problem too, right? Because we still have a whole bunch of people that are streaming these things all the time because, you know. So there's a lot of blame to be had in this. You know, we are to blame for not spending the money on this. They're also to blame for jacking the prices up ridiculously high. I mean, that's another thing that we could talk about too. It all goes hand in hand. I mean, if they made going to see a movie less ridiculously overpriced, I mean, to go see a movie, you and your wife or you and your girlfriend, it's like $50 a fare between the popcorn. I mean, why do they have to overcharge for these reels? They're not film anymore. They're using digital film. So it's not even digital. So they're still charging ridiculous money to the theaters for these prints, you know, why? So that they can spend, you know, money on these actors and stuff. But it doesn't matter. It's just everything is just so ridiculously priced that's another reason we don't go. Hey, everything Star Wars, how's it going? Like the stream, save the dream. It's just, I love you say that. He always says, like the stream, save the dream. For me, the dream is I want us to go back to 80s filmmaking in a way. Not to say I want to go back to just the 80s all the time, because I don't want to see the 80s remade. What I mean by that is the 80s had a way, at least the main big directors knew this trick. They knew how to build the franchises. They knew how to do it, and we lost something along the way. Trying to take Reimagining Star Wars says taking a family of 5. I know. I can't even really imagine that, dude. That's insane. Everything Star Wars says, if it is entertaining, it hasn't to be Cheney. There's a lot of rhyming going on today. I like it. I like what I'm seeing, guys. I'm rubbing off on you. Soon you guys are going to be like me. I love it. Everybody's going to have impressions in there. I won't be special anymore. You'll all do impressions, and you'll all be like talking crazy with toys behind you. I don't know. It'll be funny if everybody just starts becoming like Shaney. That'd be funny. But anyway, on a different note, I think that what we need to do is start demanding, but we kind of have to do our part too. Start funding things that are new, like that movie you talked about, Mortal Engines. Start supporting things like Aleta, supporting things that are actually good movies that deserve better. But the problem is, a lot of people don't even know. You know what people said to me? I showed them a trailer for Aleta, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go watch Captain Marvel." I'm like, "Forget Captain Marvel. Go watch Aleta." And she's like, "What's Aleta?" I'm like, "You don't know what Aleta is? I've never heard of that movie before." And I showed them the trailer, and they were like, "Oh, that looks really awesome." I said, "Well, it's unfortunate, but it's you never heard of that?" Yeah, I know it was based on a book series. I don't know how popular the book series was, but I know it was based on a book series. There was a lot of really popular things in the 80s that were based on books as well. Neverending Story is one of them. One of my favorite movies of all time. But again, I think the fatal flaw in Mortal Engines was the actors were very boring and mundane. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you a perfect example of this exact thing. Captain Jack Sparrow and the character of his character that was pretty much Johnny Depp's imaginings of this character. Johnny Depp created that character. That movie could have just been one of those, those average, highly, funded, like, one of those spectacle movies that, come in and out. Like, there's a ton of those movies, like Mortal Engines and stuff, that could have just come in and out. Like The Land of Tomorrow, in and out, and then forgotten. It wasn't forgotten because Johnny Depp created the character, which he had to fight for. The character, because he had clout to do so, by the way, because you can't just have an average actor do it. And he created a character that became iconic. And the character, which I've always harp on, that's why I harp on characters so much in these movies, because while the spectacle and the organization and the movie and the writing are all important, if you don't have that character to build around, that we follow, that we care and we support and we want to be like, the rest kind of goes into that meh category. So back, SK Will, the books must be French, as London is the villain. That's true. London was the villain, wasn't it? It should. It's true. And the funny part is, Canada knows more about the French versus English thing than anybody else does. By the way, I don't know if you guys knew this, but did you know that Brie Larson was French Canadian? Well, she's not French Canadian, but her family was French Canadian, or her which a lot of people in English Canada, when we heard that, were like, explains a lot. And the Star Wars says they're recycling the 80s and 90s movies. Yeah, well, they're recycling it because they don't understand it. They know this is what I'm trying to get at. They think that yes, the nostalgia we have is important, and it's true. But you guys remember, and I'm saying E.T. is a prime example of this. The 80s could come out. Exactly, doesn't that? It makes a lot of sense now. When you hear, SK says Brie is French. No offense to French people, because I love French Canadians. It's just there's like a stigma that French Canadians have here, that we just know that they're a bit stuck up, and so we look at them like that here in the English speaking society versus the French. But back to what I was saying, there is something that we need to do. As fans, that we have to start, not necessarily punishing, because punishing isn't the right word, but we definitely have to start supporting these other kinds of movies, because we got to show these producers and production companies and studios that it's not just, listen, the 80s was not just about Indiana Jones. It was not just about Back to the Future. It was not just about Pac-Man. It wasn't about Super Mario. These things were part of the 80s, but what made the 80s great was that the minute Transformers was done as a cartoon, there was G.I. Joe, there was Thundercats, you could go on a list forever about the amount of like cartoons. There was Gem, there were the holograms, there was She-Ra, there's He-Man, there's just so much. There was Silverhawks, Centurions, Gummy Bear. You can just go on and on and on and on, because it wasn't just based on 2 or 3 franchises. They built franchises by the dozens. It was just, and movies is the same thing. It was like E.T. and then Indiana Jones and then the next and the next, and then it was like Romancing the Stone. You could go on to the list of these movies that were just in characters that were so iconic, that just became iconic, one after the next. Gremlins, Poltergeist. You could just go to the list of the 80s movies and say, how many do we still know? How many of these characters are still beloved? How many are still recognized? Mask is another one. How many of these things are still beloved and used? We didn't rely on 1 or 2 or 3, because characters in the 80s, they were allowed. Beverly Hills Cop, one of my favorite characters. Again, no black heroes, BS. That guy, Eddie Murphy, was like a hero to me. Even the same thing. And you can go on and on and on and on with these characters. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I mean. You guys probably in the comments alone could do that for a long time, because we didn't rely on one or two, and we weren't so attached to one. When one was done, we were so blessed. I'm saying we were blessed in the 80s that there was always something to take its place. There was always something new that was just as good waiting to take its place. And so we are sitting here, and that all started with Star Wars, by the way. I think Star Wars was the catalyst for this. I think that's why Star Wars is so important. That's why people don't realize. I think Star Wars in 1977 took people who were extremely depressed during a time of real like people in the 70s. You know, it was a dark time, especially in the United States, and in like, you know, that people had, it was a hopeless time, and then a little movie that came out that shouldn't have been successful, but it was. And it based around a guy with hope, a little character that brought hope to the universe and hope to the people of the United States. And that's why, and the movie itself was just fantastic spectacle in itself, but the characters brought hope to people. And that's why, to this very day, to see a hopeful character become a hopeless character is so offending to most of us. Yes, Conan the Barbarian, Die Hard, you can go on and on, man. That's what I mean. It was never ending. The never ending story. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I know you are, but what am I? Fraggle Rock. Goonies. Exactly. Let's keep going. These are fun. And this will never stop, because all these characters are just, everybody knows the Goonie characters. Hey, you guys. Everybody knows them. They're timeless, and they go on forever. Princess Bride, As You Wish, right? We can actually, like, they're so that we could say anything. Friday the 13th, exactly. Even a horror movie. Freddy Krueger, Tron. Well, yeah, Tron. Tron was great, but it's funny because it has an expiry date, unfortunately. RoboCop. Don't forget RoboCop, guys. If you guys forget RoboCop, my God. Predator, another one. You know, Rambo. You can continue and go on and on and on. They don't stop. And that's what I'm saying right now, is that they want to go back to that. But when we were kids, well, Star Trek is 1960s, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Star Trek, they brought it back. But see what they did? They didn't go back with Star Trek. They didn't say, let's go back and remake Star Trek. They didn't do that in the 80s, did they? No, they didn't remake Star Trek in the 80s. They said, let's continue. Let's make a new Star Trek for a new generation. And we're not going to shit on the old. We're not going to shit on the old stuff. We're going to look back on the old time with reverence, but we're going to create something new. And and they had Spock come in with certain cameo appearances, and they had cameo appearances by Scotty and different in the show. They paid homage to the past, but they didn't, and without shitting on it. And then they just built upon it with something that was beautiful and new. Terminator's another one. The Lost Boys. Oh, I love the Lost Boys, and especially the score, that music. Who was that? I don't know who made that. But yeah, The Wrath of Khan was a great. That was when they reintroduced the movies, which started off in the 70s after Star Wars, I think. But anyway, it goes back to even the shows, Knight Rider, Dukes of Hazzard. You know, there's just so much cartoons, shows, everything that the 80s had, and it was because they said, let's try it. And how many failures, guys? Come on, we're selling the successes, but what about the failures? Let's look at the Garbage Pail Kids. Let's look at He-Man Masters of the Universe movie that failed, bombed. Let's look at what do you call it? The duck one. Howard the Duck. There's a ton of movies that didn't do well, that still became iconic for some reason. I don't know why. Even the failures became iconic in the 80s. They became cult classics into their own right. I think, what do you call it? Bandicoot? Not Bandicoot. I can't remember. Shoot. The guy with the trench coat. There's a lot of failures in the 80s that also the characters became iconic for some reason, which was funny in itself. But point is that we look at today, and we're trying to, these studios are looking at it wrong. They're like, we want to rebuild the 80s and relive the 80s nostalgia. For me, it's not about bringing back the A-Team. It's not about bringing back these movies, Terminator. It's not about bringing them back. The 80s to me was about new. It was about inventing new. And it was always something new coming around the bend. It was tomorrow there was going to be a new movie. There was going to be another cartoon. There was going to be another a video game. There was going to be another. And they were all iconic. They were all iconic. What's that? Roger Rabbit. Let's go that one. You know, it was always something new that was going to come out. And even if it was just one movie, Teen Wolf is one of my favorite. Oh, interesting thing about Teen Wolf. There's Teen Wolf actually started that saying where he goes, with great power comes great responsibility. That's what he tells Howard, his son. Remember, he's like, well, with great power comes great responsibility. He says that to his son. Michael J. Fox goes on to think about, how do I know I'm not just gonna wolf out, and kill someone? Well, you don't know that, son. He goes, with great power though comes great responsibility. He says that in that movie. I don't know if you guys remember that. But again, these movies, there was something about the 80s that we have to recapture, and it's not going back and resurrecting like the Pet Sematary. I'm not talking about the movie Pet Sematary. I'm just talking about the idea of Pet Sematary. Let's go and resurrect the old movies that we love. Because it's like, because we love them so much, we want to see them back. But guess what happens? They come back soulless, just like in Pet Sematary. They come back soulless, and they're like walking automaton zombies that are out for destruction. Me, Teen Wolf. That's all they are. Is like when they try that, because they don't understand where it came from. They don't understand the time that it was built in. They don't understand the people who loved it. They don't understand why we liked it. They didn't understand the actors and what their roles were in it. They just reinvent things. They just want to bring things back because they can live off of the logo that was created and our nostalgia for it. And it's upon us to say enough with this. I do want to see a He-Man movie come out done right. Teen Wolf will be redone as an all-female led film. They did redo Teen Wolf. Well, they did a show with Teen Wolf, but that's the thing. Instead of going, see, and that's another thing with the feminist movement. It's not to remake something and call it female is not doing them any good. The best thing to do is to make something good that is female, that can stand on its own merits. Why are you already casting a shadow on something that doesn't need to be there? Like, you have to, Rey, no matter what you did with Rey, she would, especially the way they handled her, but she was always going to have the Luke Skywalker shadow cast on her no matter what she did. And it was going to be near to impossible, even if she was written without being a Mary Sue. She was always going to have that shadow of Luke Skywalker cast on her. There's no way it can't be done, because they didn't create something new. They just tried to mimic something that was old and just recast her as a female. And they're just rehashing something. When you make an Indiana Jones, let's just say they make a female Indiana Jones, you think she's going to be successful? Even if the movie is successful, you still got the old hat of Indiana Jones' shadow casted upon her if they do that. You're not giving her a fair chance, first of all. If you want to give her a fair chance, build her something from scratch. Make something from scratch. Put the effort in building her, like Aleta. That's why we should have all said, let's build Aleta. Aleta didn't have anything else to live up to. Aleta could be whatever Aleta was. Aleta could be her and just be that. And she didn't have to live, worry about anything to drag her down. She could be anything in any way they wanted. Ghostbusters is the same way. If they, instead of making it a Ghostbusters film, and they said, let's take these comedians, let's put them together, let's have them do their own paranormal adventure, maybe pay homage to Ghostbusters, like an homage, and just have certain little scenes that are just saying, we're paying an homage to Ghostbusters, but we're not actually Ghostbusters. We're calling it something completely different. Nobody would have said nothing about that movie, and it would have been in its own merits without a shadow being cast on it. And instead, what they did was they screwed itself up by doing that, which I said from the beginning was going to happen. Reimagining Star Wars, so he should have been in there passing the baton. No, I think that Rey should have been completely separate from Luke. I mean, a completely separate entity what I mean entity, what I mean like either you make her an actual relative, and then yes, you pass the baton, or then you do like Star Trek, The Next Generation, and just cut ties completely with the original, and you do something completely new. You know what I mean? Like Rogue One, she didn't have anything cast on her. The main actress, I forgot her name. She didn't have anything cast on her because she was her own character, doing her own journey, and so she didn't have that same stigma. Whereas Rey did. They made all these comparisons with Rey right off the bat. It was the same looking planet, the same sort of like the lightsaber stuff, the look of her. Everything was sort of done to attach itself because they wanted to trick our brains. They wanted us to believe that she was Luke. And that's what they do too. They like to play this little association game with us. Rey should be Luke's daughter, as Star Wars, yes, it's about family. Well, you should have done something like that. He's either Rey's daughter or Rey's apprentice. I mean, I actually thought that it was going to be revealed that she had already been trained by Luke, but Luke wiped her memory. That's what I thought they were going to go. That's all it was muscle memory that she was going off of, and that she had already done all these things, and that it was going to be found out that she was already trained by Luke, and maybe she wasn't Luke's daughter, but definitely Luke's mentored by Luke. They could have carried on the tradition and been trained by the original. Maybe Rey was trying to track them down. They could do a number of different things with Rey, but what they did with Rey was they didn't give her a chance. They didn't give her a chance because the minute they threw, and I'm not even talking about the Mary Sue stuff, that didn't help, but definitely didn't help. But the minute they cast her as the new Luke, that's already done. That's already done for her character. She's always going to be compared to Luke. And that's not giving her a fair chance at being a successful character right off the bat. You've already done that. Captain Picard wasn't trying to be the new Captain Kirk. Captain Picard was Captain Picard. He had his own captain style. He was completely different from Kirk in every single way. And right off the bat, they let you know that. He wasn't Captain Kirk. His look was different. Everything, even the shirt, the jersey, they didn't even try to like associate it because they gave him a red one, and Kirk always wore the beige one. So they never, even that they changed, and just so that they didn't associate the two because they were completely different. And Kirk and Captain Picard was great on his own merits, and whereas Kirk was great for his, and you didn't have to compare who was better or who wasn't. Palpatine, again, there's so many things they could do with Rey to make her interesting, and they chose to do none of them. If I was doing Ghostbusters, I would have had the original characters go back to another reality where they are girls now. Imagine Venkman being a girl and how he would react. So you're talking about them drag? That'd have been funny. Just him back in drag. Just go back and see Bill Murray in drag, but playing it serious. That would have been funny. I think they should never have done it at all. Period. I think they should have just continued with part 3, and that's it. I don't think that they should, if they were going to do a female-led movie in the vein of Ghostbusters, they should have paid homage to Ghostbusters, but done a completely different movie with a new logo, doesn't even have to be with proton packs, none of that stuff. Their own thing, their own entity in the same line, like saying it's inspired, like it was inspired by Ghostbusters, but it wasn't Ghostbusters, and I think it would have been successful then. And then the girls wouldn't have to live down. Well, the ghost, like Orville. The Orville can do whatever the hell it wants because it's paying homage to Star Trek, but it's not Star Trek, so it gets the freedom to do whatever it wants to do. It could take from Star Trek certain things and ideas and have that sort of same nostalgic feeling, but it didn't. But it doesn't have to live by Star Trek's rules, and it can do whatever it wants. And it's successful because of that. Because it did a very smart thing, not even on purpose, because Seth MacFarlane wanted to do it and wanted it to be Star Trek. But I think it was better that it wasn't, because now he gets the freedom to make it funnier. He has the freedom to make different things if he wants, because it's not Star Trek, but it's recognizable enough as Star Trek that people still associate it. And that's what I think they should have done with Ghostbusters. Not call it Ghostbusters, call it something completely different with a completely different logo, but in the same sort of vein with similar, just different enough that it doesn't break copyright rules and it can get away with it. I hate the Orville, as it says, I'm a bad person who doesn't think for oneself and rejects science, and I am supremacist. I haven't watched the Orville this season very much, to be honest. I liked the first season. I found this season to be very too much into the romance stuff and a little. See, Star Trek never preached. I think Star Trek was more about showing multiple different ideas, and saying, "Hey, you know, maybe it's this, maybe it's that." But I don't think they preached. This is very preachy. S1 did the same. There was some preachy stuff, I think, but it came at a time it was really political too. I mean, Star Trek came out in a really political time in the 60s. Reimagining Star Wars says the poltergeisting babes. Yeah, why not? Exactly. It could have been something completely different that we know and associate with Ghostbusters, but it isn't Ghostbusters. So we'd be like, it's its own thing, and it gets to be funny. You can put a musical in it if you want. You can have a slapstick comedy. You can do whatever you wanted to it. It doesn't hold by the rules of Ghostbusters. But when you attach Ghostbusters to it, you've already put a cast of shadow on it that it now has to live up to. Hey, Frontman 242, how's it going, bud? Glad to see you here. We're talking Hollywood and how they have no respect. Hey, Hollywood has no respect, I tell you. For us fans, and we got to demand better, and that's pretty much the whole point in this. We have to demand better. Stop asking for them to relive our childhood through these pandering gestures, because that's all it is. Even feminism is being pandered to. It really thinks that it's really doing something, but it isn't. I still think a lot of this stuff, and hey, it's just my opinion, and it's not necessarily, I'm not married to it. It's just an idea that I have, but I think a lot of this, while it was going on before, but I think it really amped up after. I know people are going to say Trump. I think Trump winning definitely hurt, amped it up a little bit too. But I think that what really, I think, made it go over the top was the Harvey Weinstein stuff. And I think that there is sinister stuff going on in Hollywood at the top levels with men doing really abhorrent things. And I think a lot of that shit these studios want to keep under the rug. And I really think that's it's just theory. I'm not married to it. If someone says you're wrong for this reason, I'm open to being wrong. That's just my theory. So basically, I think that there is sinister stuff happening on that we don't know about, that they're trying to deflect from. It's like, let's not look at what we have in the skeletons in our closet. Let's not look at these things, because we have to make sure that we're with you guys in the feminist stuff. Rah rah. Like, all of a sudden, Marvel, who didn't give a shit before, suddenly cares. Disney suddenly cares. What 10 years of no female superheroes? Now all of a sudden you care. Now you're all about it. There's something going on. I think that the Hollywood is just, they don't want outed. And I think that a lot of these big name studios are just like, I hope this guy doesn't get outed, and I hope he doesn't get outed, and I hope this doesn't happen, because the Me Too movement is really strong, and we don't want all this stuff to come out because it's going to ruin our reputation and ruin this guy's reputation and this person, and everyone becomes Harvey Weinstein. So what happens is they just, they go all in on the let's do the feminist thing, because they won't, let's not anger them any further, because we don't want them to look inside the closet, which has a lot of dirty, grimy men doing a lot of disgusting things. And then not just two women, because the stuff that you hear also, like Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, have talked about pedophilia rings and stuff like that. I don't know if any of that's true. I'm just saying that, yeah, exactly. That's the virtue signaling. That's exactly what it is. But I think it's virtue signaling, but deflecting. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, look at this signal over here. It's the bat signal with the, it's a bra signal. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Women, and then, but so that no one looks as like a magic trick. Let's not look at what this person's doing on this side, because look at how we are over here. all men are Bill Cosby. No, I'm not saying all men are Bill Cosby. What I'm saying is that there is enough Bill Cosbys in these high positions that obviously I think is, and I'm only saying Hollywood. I'm only saying Hollywood. I'm not saying in every place, but I'm saying that there is enough of them that is obvious. I think that they don't want to release the real stuff that's going on, because I do think there is some abhorrent stuff going on in there. We've heard about rituals and shit like that. I don't know if it's all true. Again, I don't know. It's just a theory I have, and it could be wrong. And someone could say, you're stupid because this and this. And I'd listen to it and say, all right, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just a stupid idea. But left to see it as such. I mean, well, yeah, they do. And I think, but again, fighting against it is just going to get them fighting for it. And I think they're going to look more into like again, the Me Too movement. When was the last time we've seen, again, let the Me Too movement die on its own because of stuff like Smollett and things like that come out. And what's her name? The Johnny Depp's wife that accused him of beating. Now she's come out, and it's apparently a lie too. And she's actually one that gave him a beating. So like this stuff has to sort of calm itself down. I think that there is darkness in the closets from these Harvey Weinstein types in Hollywood, because I do think that needs to be exposed. And I that's one of the things that I really hope does get exposed, is if there is pedophilia stuff happening there, I want that exposed pronto, because that's disgusting. And I know for a fact from, that a lot of stuff in Hollywood, like making women do naked stuff and dirty stuff, has been going on for years. So we all know the joke about the casting couch, and it's a joke, but it's not us in it, so it's a joke. It's not because it's because that. Well, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of different angles to take. That's just one of the, I think there's a lot more than just that, but I think that that's a part of why I think it's amped up. The Trump stuff, I think, is also another reason. I think the anger towards the Trump winning, I think, also amped it up a little to another degree. And let's just keep amping it up. Now, will it deflate? Oh man, let's hope. I don't know, man. I really hope it does. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm so sick and tired of it, man. I'm sick and tired of it. Someone said it on another podcast. Someone said the casting gas chamber. Someone said it on another podcast or another video. I forgot who it was, but it really got to me, because they say, like, he said something about why do men hate Brie Larson? And then he said, well, we didn't hate her. She hated us first. And what do you expect us to do? If you're going to come out hating us, of course we're going to hate you. It's just natural. She started the fight, and now, her and her followers want to cop out on it, but you guys continue to start the fight. It's not enough to just build women up. You have to knock men down, and they don't see it. It's funny because they don't see it. It's like you could have a rational girl watching these movies, and they're saying, wow, isn't this so wonderful? But they're not seeing the actual side of the male who's being put down every 5 minutes. They're not seeing that. They're not seeing how The Last Jedi was not just a pro-feminine film, but it was an anti-man film. So if you look at it from a pro-feminist film, you're like, oh, look, and you're just seeing it from that side. It's a pro-feminist film. It could be a pro-feminist film, and I don't think most guys would give a crap. The fact that we care is not because it was pro-feminine. It was because it was, at the same time as being pro-feminine, it was anti-masculine. It was anti-male toxicity and all this stuff that you believe to be stuff. And then the funny part is they don't even see how they created the same character that they hate in the same hero type that they hated as males doing it. They created in Brie Larson's character in Captain Marvel. She was completely displaying male toxicity throughout the entire movie. But no one paid attention to that. It was just she was a female doing it, so it's fine. So it's okay for women to show to be toxic, to display toxic masculinity, but it's not okay for men to display toxic masculinity. She could be a bully. She could put people down. She could use her power aggressively in points where she doesn't have to. She could brag about her power every 2 seconds. She can do all those things, and that's the actress included, displaying what we would consider male toxicity, mansplaining. She's consistently mansplaining all the time. Yet she's displaying that, and it's okay because it's a female doing it. And so they don't see the hypocrisy in that. And it's just, we're not hating them. They hate us. And yet we're racist. We're that. They're actually being sexist, and we're sitting here playing the defensive, like, we're not sexist. No. You are actually being sexist when you come out in a movie saying, we want to have an all-female superhero cast. Because why? Why do you need a whole female superhero movie? Why? Was there ever a declination where we had an all-male cast? Did we ever say was Captain America all masculine? Was any superhero movie declared all males? Never. We never did that, because first of all, no guys want just, quote unquote, we don't want all guys, because that's like what they call a sausage fest, and nobody likes that. No guys want a sausage fest. But for some reason, women think that we want a sausage fest when no guys want a sausage fest. Women must be men and men women. Well, yeah, I mean, that Transformers was the perfect example of the Bumblebee movie, of that switcheroo. If you look at the two main characters, and that was exactly what they did there. It's like the atheist community. They hurl childish insults and demand religious people, but pretend that they are victims. And trust me, men want to see women superheroes in tight clothes. Of course we do. Of course we do. Just like women want to see guys with chiseled chests. Who do you think are going to complain more about Thor's tummy in the movie than men or women? Women will complain more. Men will think it's hilarious. Women are going to complain because they wanted to see his damn chest. They wanted to see his muscles. They don't want to see Thor as this slub go walking around. They don't want that. Jason Momoa. Most of the people went to see Aquaman were women, and it had nothing to do with the female cast. I'll tell you right now, it had everything to do with Jason Momoa. And I know, because I had a lot of girls at work who were just like, did you watch Aquaman? Oh my gosh, Jason Momoa is just so amazing. He's just so great. And all they would talk about is his chest. And it's hilarious, because if we did that, can you imagine? He's so muscular. He just oozes masculinity. And he's not even the type of guy that I like. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. I just like him. And those are the exact conversations I had, by the way. But imagine if I did that and I said, I love that Wonder Woman movie. Yep. You know what I loved about her? She showed me her ass. I just love that scene when she jumped up and her skirt flipped up for half a second, and I just saw a little butt cheek there. That's another me. I loved that movie after that. And her cleavage, I love that. We don't do that, right, as men, like openly, at least. I tell you what, when I am with the guys, we will complain about seeing sexy women in films. We want all guys only. Yeah, that's what we want. That's what all guys want. Exactly. All men ever do is complain about how there's not enough testosterone in this film. That's all we do is complain. There's too much men in this. Like, it's ridiculous. Men want to see women, and women want to see men. That's just the way it is. And they want to pretend that it's not the case. Because again, it's about representation, and I have to see myself. But it's funny, if we cared about representation so much, why is it representation only matters when it's about races? Why doesn't representation or sexism or sex? Why doesn't it, or gender? So why don't we talk about why there's no person in a wheelchair? Why is there no? I mean, we only have one. Let's talk about that. Professor Xavier is the only wheelchair superhero. Why is there only one? Why is there only one superhero like that? Why don't we have more little people superheroes? Why don't we have people with cerebral palsy? Or why don't we have, diabetic superheroes? Why is it always healthy-bodied superheroes? Why don't we represent everybody in the community? Why don't we go there? But no one speaks up for those people. No one speaks up for them. Everything Star Wars says is on. It's on a way for them to. And another one for us. Skay Wills, I walk with a cane and never really thought, we need more crippled superheroes. Example. I know. It's just funny. Yeah. We should have more superheroes with a cane. Front man says no Eskimo superheroes. Well, exactly. We pick and choose. We pick and choose who are the ones that are hard done by. And right now, women are the biggest talkers, so they want to have more representation. But even Brie Larson herself said in interviews that it's funny. She's a big liar, but she says she never even watched. I mean, she didn't even know who Captain America was. They said, "Are you going to be Captain Marvel?" And her mind thought Captain America. If you watch, there's an interview with her where they said she's going to be. The fans want her to be Captain Marvel. And she says, is that the one with the shield? I think she says something like that. Like, is it a guy? You want me to be? She confused Captain Marvel with Captain America. Just shows you how little she cares about comics. You know what I mean? It's not like she was like a girl growing up loving the comics, pining for a female representation that she never got. But that's how she's acting. She's acting as that's the narrative that she was brought up with, and she's a big liar anyway. But Captain Underpants. Our famous superhero was Captain Underpants. See, that's what we're talking about for representation, the nudist colony representation. How about Amish people? We need an Amish superhero. We need an Amish superhero for sure. Yeah, was that sarcasm, front man? I can't tell with all those caps. Oh boy, she did. Yeah, I mean, she's in a class all of herself. I still think she's a psychopath. We established she was French, so of course she lies. Oh, snap! Do kids still say snap? Well, they should. I shan't fight the English. Yeah, in Canada we have our thing with the French. We know, or at least in English-speaking Canada, we have our thing. But especially French Canadian. She's still cute. Sure. Anybody is cute until they open their mouth, and that's sort of where they become uncute, in my opinion, anyway. You can be cute. It's like, she ain't pretty, she just looks that way. Remember that song? That's what I feel about her. She ain't pretty, she just looks that way. I'll beat thee with the power of pacifism and Christian love, and with the ability to raise barn in a day. Oh yeah, that's the that's the Amish superhero. That's what we need, an Amish superhero. That'd be kind of fun. Anyway, guys, that's kind of what I want to say. I really do think, though, that we have to start demanding more. And then the only way to really demand is and actually be heard is through our dollars. And it's unfortunate. We should start, and me included, because I'm guilty of this too. I can't preach, but I'm also a person who's just as I'm just as guilty as anybody in this regard. I get carried away with it as well, with the hype of certain things, and then you want to get into it and do it. But I do think that we should start promoting and helping these other movies like Mortal Engines, that type of stuff. Aleta was a great push from us. I think we did a good job with that. But again, we got to tell Hollywood that we don't want to be pacified with old crap and old logos and you know and stuff like that. And we don't want they want to keep their agenda, keep your agenda, but I think the biggest problem is that they're infusing agenda because the people who are behind the scenes aren't getting a chance to express themselves and their vision and whatever the hell they want in their own way. So let them do what they want to do with their movies and their agenda. Let them do it on their side and give them a voice to do it. But don't do it in a way that compromises stuff that we like Star Wars or Back to the Future and stuff that has nothing to do with that. And I think the way we kind of have to do that is we got to tell Hollywood that we want new stuff. Let these people who have these new voices, give them a chance to say their stuff, but do it in their own terms with their own movies and make their own logos and whatever. But don't do it with our stuff, and keep our stuff separate from that, because that's what it comes down to, man. They have to be allowed to fail and succeed on their own merits. And we're propping these guys like Captain Marvel. She walks around like she did something. I hate to keep going back to her. I really do, but it's just because she's such in the forefront of news, and I feel like we have to sort of get to this because it's such a good example where she's fronting as if her movie, because it was financially successful, and same thing with Ryan Johnson, same exact thing actually, that because their movie was financially successful, that is an indication of their ability, to draw a crowd, or their ability of what the fans want. And that isn't. That's not what fans want. That's not what people want. It's just, it was feeding off of an existing franchise that was already hugely successful, and there was no way it was ever going to fail because of that. But if you were to take this entity and put it on its own merits, without the baggage, without the things that were built before that, they would have fallen, and they would have never, they wouldn't be walking around with this, like perched chest, like they did something fantastic and just keep talking about how great they were. Fat, fuzzy, short superheroes. Yeah, that was a Wolverine. He should have been, well, not fat, buggy man. That's what we should do. We should make a whole superhero movie with nothing but unusual people and the average people. Endgame could have been better. Yeah, it could have been better. But you know what, SK Wills, at this point, it could have been worse. And you know what? I'll take the could have been better than the could have been worse, because at this point, I'm so skeptical about everything that comes out of Hollywood now. And as I think the best we can hope for now is it could have been better, because it couldn't have. I would rather that than it couldn't have been worse. Because I'll take that. It's a win. It's a win. You got to take the wins when they come. Anyway, guys, it's I got to get going. I got things and chores I still got to do. And thank you guys for watching. I'm really appreciate a pretty good response, guys. Coming, I always like doing these things, and leaving the comments too, guys. I don't get enough comments on my videos, I find. So leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think we could do to help send a message to Hollywood that we want new stuff. We don't want to be rehashed all the time. We don't want to be pandered to. I want new stuff. So please leave in a comment an idea, that we could do. Send them a message. Anyway, guys, I'm going to head out. Thank you for watching. I shall bid thee all good day. Till next time. Ciao.